Yeah, just...
Yes, please.
Hello, and welcome to the very, very last session of our beautiful conference. It's a real pleasure to have those people here. I'll just give a 1-minute background, and then we can start with the roundtable. The idea for this roundtable started with the constant academic complaints that politicians do not take scientists seriously. So we said, okay, if the politicians do not take scholars and researchers seriously, let's gather the politicians and let's voice our concerns and let's see what they have to tell us in exchange. So what we've got here is the roundtable, is the policy roundtable led by Boris Jokic, who is the director of the Institute of Social Research in Zagreb and one of our co-organizers. Then we have Kristina Alexandersson coming from the Swedish Internet Foundation. Then we have Maria Selak-Raspudic, who is a member of Croatian Parliament. And then we have Luka Kerecin, who is a member of Zagreb City Council and a digital entrepreneur. I didn't speak about parliamentary affiliation, about those affiliations for a purpose. Anyway, so the idea is that it's a bit unusual for an academic conference because what we've got here, we've actually got people who are active in politics. This is also probably unusual for people from active politics because I'm not sure how much they involved with scholarly and academic research. And I think that it's a great thing to have. I think it's such a beautiful interaction and such a beautiful intersection. And I hope we will have a fruitful discussion. Thank you so much. Let the party begin.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Now, my job is done already. You've already said everything about the people that are going to speak here, so I'm just going to repeat a little bit and get you to introduce the people you're going to hear. The format is following. We have 45 to 60 minutes. We want to have an open discussion among us, but also an open discussion with the audience and us who are speaking here. So please, after 20 minutes, I'm going to ask for the questions immediately. We're not going to wait till the end. At that point, if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please raise your hand and ask the questions. We have 3 great people here, 3 great people who are connected with digital in education, with post-digital, with ideas how to regulate, how to make internet better, how to make digital sphere better, what to do from the policy sphere. And I'll just say a little bit about them, and then I'll ask them to introduce themselves with their relation to the digital sphere. From Sweden, we have Kristina Alexandersson from the Swedish Internet Foundation. She's the leading expert in digital competence in schools. Then from the Croatian Parliament, from the party Drito, which is, Maria, can I say like center or a little bit center to the right? Okay, center. Center. We have Maria Selak-Raspudic, who is an MP, but she's also an academic. She's a professor of philosophy from the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences of University of Zagreb, with expertise in ethics and bioethics. So she's not here just as a politician. She'll, I'm sure, have a lot to say about the ethical aspects of digital sphere. And then finally, we have Luka Kerecin from Možemo party, which is, Luka, can I also say, Green Left Party? Green Left Party, which is currently ruling the city of Zagreb. Luka is not just a city councillor, he's also a communication expert, especially with expertise in digital communication, and he's also a digital entrepreneur. So we have various sides of this panel here, and I'm sure it's going to be interesting for you after 2 days of academic discussions, which I also participated in. I know that you are tired, but please bear with us, and I'm sure it's we're going to have a nice time. So, Kristina.
Let me start with a Swedish word. In Sweden, we say we have to make a notification. We have to say this. I have to say this. And we say it's brasklapp. It's a bishop from the 1500s who put a note on the church in Stockholm. He said, I need to tell you this, and I need to tell the audiences. I'm not a political representation. I'm working at the Swedish TLD. That's the top domain leverantör. That we work with top domains. I work with the Internet Infrastructure Foundation. I'm working with a DNS. So I'm not working with media, but part of our foundation is to make internet better. And as a foundation, we actually try to change policies. We try to find out how people in Sweden use internet, how they feel around it, how they actually think they get, if they like surveillance, if they want a ban or not. We ask the Swedes. So I'm not a political, and you can't throw any political questions at me, but I can throw political questions at these two, I guess.
Many philosophers say that we are all political beings, and one cannot be a being without being political. So here the politics is not a rude word, quite the opposite. Actually, without politics, it's very difficult to do any change within any society, be it Swedish or Croatian. And we're going to speak a lot about what is better internet, what is good interaction with technology. But we'll come to these questions. Maria, can you say a little bit more about yourself and your relationship with the issue and topic of digitalization, maybe digital in education?
Yeah, Boris is a future politician. I'm just not sure does he know it yet, but we will see.
Thank you. That's very nice.
And hope many of you also. Yes, I'm among many other things a politician, but my main occupation is that I teach at university. So my engagement in technology started almost 15 years ago with scientific research. But that's not maybe so interesting at this point. As a politician, firstly in 2023, I made a first proposition, legal proposition, since I'm a member of the Croatian Parliament, to regulate usage of cell phones in Croatian primary schools and high schools. So the idea was actually to prohibit use of cell phones and related technologies in high schools and primary schools unless it is necessary due to medical condition or because of the things that you are learning at that very moment and requires modern technology. At that point, in 2023, actually people looked at me really strangely, and many were against the proposition. But things really changed in the next 2 years. It became very trendy and popular to engage, even politically, in order to change something when it comes to technological regulation. So basically my proposition ended as one that has been discussed in the Croatian Parliament, and leading parties even changed one law in order to regulate usage of technology, but only in primary schools. So we are making a progress, not as fast as I would like to, because unlike it was said at the beginning, some politicians do read scientific research and follow scientific research. So I think that we should be more careful in many other levels. But we did make some change, and right now I have another proposition, and I'm engaged in promoting it, and that one is related to regulating usage of social media when it comes to children. Mm-hmm. We will see how will that end. It's a fight, as you probably know, and basically I will sum up my idea about legal regulation of technology in 2 sentences. I think actually the answer that we are looking for when it comes to children, and this is my focus in relation to technology, is quite simple. No matter how we like to make it very complicated. And that is to regulate technology through our legal system, to help children become less addictive to technology. And everything else is, in a way, I mean, I understand all the benefits of technology, of course, but I think that we are just avoiding one obvious solution to many problems we have today when it comes to children. their health and everything related. I will continue further on.
Thank you. Thank you. You hear a little bit about it. You heard it maybe from the Croatian colleagues about these cases. Luka, what's your stance on it? Personal stance, party stance, and let's see. And party stance. He's representing party here, and we'll come back to the issues that Maria has actually mentioned. Several elements which are part of the backlash movement. There was speak about ban. If you heard about it, speak about regulation. There's a lot of primary, higher, secondary education, mobile phones, social media. So all of that we'll kind of try to dismantle. But Luka, first of all, please let's hear your story a little bit.
Thank you, Boris. Hi, everybody. So, I mean, the way it has started from our standpoint of view in Croatia. So just a little bit of a background. In Zagreb, we have Možemo is in power in Zagreb, the city of Zagreb, the capital you're in. Basically what we have done is we have given a recommendation to schools, high schools, schools in general, to, sorry, not high schools, primary schools, to basically ban phones. And a lot of it was actually based on research, on your guys' work, especially his work, actually. You know, as somebody who also is interested in how things are communicated, I was often the one reading these things in order to figure out how to put them out in a format and in a language that, you know, your average Joe can understand. And from that aspect, you know, that has been very eye-opening to me. As somebody who has, you know, been dealing with digital all his life, I've worked for IT companies. I've done numerous communication campaigns in all sorts of different elements, including like building apps and stuff like that. I am very painfully aware of the dangers of the algorithm and the way these things are made. And basically, in my opinion, it all comes down to the fact that, you know, children and parents and teachers are basically put across companies that are immensely rich. They hire the smartest people. They have billions of dollars. And they are put to their own devices to fight these beasts. You know, it's a David versus Goliath, and it's something that I think we as politicians and you guys as researchers, by lifting the topic and researching it, that we should, you know, really try to level the powers here, so the scale is not so tipped as to where, you know, it is all on just parents and all on just kids. And now we'll probably discuss a bunch of these different kind of measures we've taken and we've tried to take. But I can just tell you that, you know, this ban on phones in schools has, you know, resulted. Feedback-wise, there's been some research now. This happened in 2025, October, where, you know, teachers are saying schools are livelier. There's more social interaction between the kids. But then again, you know, I don't think that's enough. We're not really hitting the spot we're meant to hit, and those are the corporations, the big companies that are, you know, creating algorithms and basically making money off of the suffering and the addiction of both kids and the grown-ups. You know, here we're talking about kids, but there is a significant number of older people as well who haven't, you know, grown with these technologies and are not able to, you know, kind of to understand differences, let's say, between AI, between what's fake, what's real, and so on and so on. So yeah, I'm not going to go any further. Let's move on.
Just for clarification, for you, those of you who are not from Croatia, when they speak about primary education, we call it osnovna škola. Basically, in other systems, that would be the primary and lower secondary education. So it's grades 1 to 8. When they speak about high school, they say, in Croatian case, they speak about grades 9 to 12. So in case of legal ideas of banning, is basically between the grades 1 to 8, which is 7 to 14. But to come back to these issues, and we try to kind of conceptualize this talk in the following segments. First, we'll speak about education, then we'll go into the ideas of like interest groups, big companies, big tech companies. We'll speak a little bit about like sustainability and the cost, the ecological cost of what is going on, AI and the privacy. If you get to time, if you have time, we'll even get to the issues of ethics and philosophy behind the AI. But let's focus first on the idea of the education and technology and education. Christina, from the standpoint of Sweden, to come to that, can you just briefly explain the situation in Sweden with regards to the digital technology in schools? Is it used? Is it regulated in any case? At which level is it regulated? And what are the means of regulation of the use?
I would say this is something that we have in the whole world around children. We have a narrative that we are going to protect the children. This isn't unique for the Croatian situation or the Swedish, but in the Swedish situation we have these screen times recommendations that came 2 years ago from the Minister of Health, or at least from the Bureau of institution from the government, and they said children under the age of 6 shouldn't be using screens, and and this was only in spare time. And we, as Internet Foundation, we made a gallop and we asked the parents, did you enjoy these screen times recommendation? And everybody said, it helped me a lot, but I didn't use them. So there is a need, there seems to be, from a political point, a need, a response to something they think the community needs or the citizens need. They need regulations, they need standards and rules around screen times. In Swedish schools, we have had this debate about banning phones. And if we look at the schools using smartphones, every student in Sweden have a smartphone, but when they came to school, they had to be collected in the classroom, and all the teacher put it in a box, a special box, actually made for calculators, but they used them for smartphones, and they put them in the front of the road, and every child were out of their smartphones, and the lesson worked really well. But the political agenda was, no, we shouldn't have smartphones in schools, so we'll ban them. And they banned them, and it was voluntary to begin with, but from the fall it will be mandatory. And we have computers, and I think it was Sarah who presented about the computers that we have special lockdowns on, and we have all the regulation around kids is about, we have these computers, which we shouldn't use them because it's frightening that there are algorithms and there are big companies using them to actually to advertise for our children and collect their attention and our willingness to buy stuff around advertising. But when we actually look at this limitation around children and banning phones, we have the same stories, and we have a regulation. Just in June there was a huge investigation from the government about a new regulation about banning social media for children. And the main focus actually is we should secure especially girls. It's really important because social media is more difficult for girls to handle. So we should actually ban social media for girls. And we should ban Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, because girls use them more. Because they are more victims for the deliberated algorithms that will show them how they should look and that they are objects. But game platforms, we don't have to ban them in the same extent, because it seems like boys don't have that issue. They don't have to be protected in that way. But girls are especially need of security. And now I'm making a point of this, but I think it's important that we all talk about the difference, at least in the Swedish context, we actually separate female and male uses of internet and social media, and we problemize the girls' uses more than the boys. And I think we have to look at it on both an age gap and and for the whole community. We have problems, children have problems, we have to talk about that.
I like the irony in your voice, like Croatia and this region is known for the black humor and irony, but I see that it comes also in Sweden in healthy doses. But I mean, for those of you who didn't get it, but there was an ironic element to this thing, like, because I saw everyone was like already, you never know what you can say anymore at the academic conferences. But Maria, you spoke, and let me just backtrack like a little bit to the use of mobile phones, and then you mentioned the use of social media, and then education. And you use the word ban from the legislative position, and now being a part of the parliament. Do you think that banning something is really the best way to go?
Yes. Yeah, very simple and very straightforward. I mean, I don't really get it. So when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to cigarettes, when it comes to many other things which we find scary and dangerous, of course we ban them to children. And yes, of course, sometimes they don't listen. We know
But it's not quite the same, you know, like the brandy is not the same as the Instagram.
Yeah, it's very healthy, you know, especially when you are like 12. Yeah. So, but when it comes to addiction, and it really is addiction, related to technology, to cell phones, to social media, everybody gets like really scared. No, banning is really bad. We should, you know, take care of their needs and stuff like that. Yes, but first of all, they are still children. And if you want them to raise them in responsible adults, yes, they also have some rules, and we do need sometimes to ban them something, especially if we know that consequences of usage of technology are not necessarily good. So I think one of the biggest problems is that we got scared of our own children. So for us, it's like, you know, if we ban something, we are bad and mean persons, and children are always good and they are always right, so it won't look well. So I think we should actually reconsider that concept, and we shouldn't be frightened if we know that there are some problems. And I don't think something really, really bad will happen if we ban them, for example, social media. I don't think, you know, that's inevitable disaster, and after that they will not recover if we discover that, for example, ban didn't succeed, you know.
I have to ask a question, one question, from a technical point.
Yeah.
How are you going to do the ban?
Well, we weren't very successful when it comes to banning anything to children, as we all know, alcohol, cigarettes, and stuff like that, but it doesn't stop us from trying, you know. We don't live in a perfect society, and our solutions aren't perfect. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to come up with some. I speak from a legal perspective, because in the parliament I create legal solutions.
But
from that perspective, I think
from a technical point, it's really difficult to make a ban, and you can do it by surveillance everybody using these tools. So you can actually do it by saying to everybody, we have to know what you do, to know that you're not a child.
Anything we do on internet is being surveilled. So we think, for example, when it comes to adult pages, everybody will understand that example. So people...
Wait, she's a leading person for internet in Sweden, so like, watch out what you're saying. So she knows a little bit more about it. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't say that I know everything, so it doesn't, you know. But I like the challenge, so thank you. So when it comes to, for example, adult pages, so right now when we were discussing, should we prohibit them for children, because right now it's very easy to enter them, or any other type of, you know, content which is not good for children. So everybody stands up, gets, you know, really enthusiastic about explaining. Now everything will be surveilled, you know. Everybody will know who is, if we have to check our identity in order to access certain pages and stuff like that. So basically I think that we all live, especially children, and even we as adults, in this illusion that there are some things we do on internet which are private. There aren't. I mean, whoever it's not a public sphere. This is our biggest mistake. When I was writing a book about it, before politics, I was writing about that. So it's not a public sphere like this square or anything else. It's private sphere. Somebody owns that page, and somebody knows who is there and what that person is doing. So I think, this privacy which we are aiming for in virtual reality is more or less illusion, unfortunately.
I like very much this idea of an argument between the panelists themselves. That's rarely that you do that, like that people immediately engage in a conversation between them. And I really like the notion of being straightforward from the political stance, because that's really important, to be straightforward about the position, which is, I would like to do that, and then questioning that from not just the technical point of view, but also from the other points of view. Luca, before you want to, I don't know when you want to react, just I want to have a little bit for the audience to see like the political spectrum, because it's pretty much the same. It would be the same in Australia, in England, I don't know, in Brazil and Sweden, like in Croatia. Would Green Left Party, would it also suggest a ban?
We already did, in a way. So I was actually going to get to that. To answer your question, how? So after we've done the ban in schools in Zagreb, that kind of made a pressure on the national government to do the same nationwide, and that happened. And then we've had this initiative petition from one of our parliamentaries in the parliament to basically regulate, children's well-being and just kind of behavior on the digital sphere in general. And one of the ways the proposition was written is to use the nationalist provider software, which we call NIAS. I don't know, I'm sure each country has, some countries are digitalized enough to have that, which basically works in a way that, the provider doesn't see any information, but the provider sends, provider being like Facebook or whatever, sends the information to NIAS system, which, if each person has their own like profile, right? And it just says it is or it isn't, the child is more 15 years older or younger, and then it bans them or not. It's not perfect, obviously, and Australia has just introduced 6 months ago something like that, right? And we are yet to see, some feedback on how it went. I honestly haven't had the time to read up in detail on the findings so far. So if anybody else knows more,
Luca, you should have been a part of this conference.
Yeah,
had like people from Australia speaking about that, like exactly about this case and what happened.
So
maybe they're here in the audience
that,
and they can say something about it.
I'm bummed I missed that, but I would love to hear some feedback on that. But that's kind of that's kind of how we tried to solve it. Obviously, I'm not in your position to know all the technicalities. But that's kind of the way we went about it.
Just because there was one important issue raised here, because you can of course simplify everything and say like there's a regulation, and of course there's a regulation which is like laws and sub-bylaws and all of that. When you say we would ban it from a left-green position, what is the age level that you would ban the use of social media?
15.
What? 15. How about you?
16.
16. Okay, so that's at least there is some
Very
difference.
different.
Very different.
We're going to vote differently on these issues.
However, for me, it's really interesting that despite need for kind of positioning within the politics, that you would so easily go for banning, because ban always has a like other side to it. There is always resistance to ban. There is bigger issues here of someone being 16 and then, regardless of what you say, Maria, which probably you're right, being surveilled without privacy, without agency in important parts of their lives. Because digital life, just like ours, just like yours, just like in work, digital life is already a big part of life of these individuals. So there is this is kind of very strong intervention by a state in someone's life to say we are banning that. And I understand also analogy with other addictions. However, at least in a kind of like ideal way, use of digital media and social networks is not necessarily bad, and it can have positive aspects. So that kind of brings me to the other topic, which is really interesting for this conference. I know Maria from her position, and I know some of the members of the parliament from the Možemo, but especially Maria from the position of the party Drito. You have used extensively the research from Croatia in order to propagate that. How was that? How was that translation of the research, what you have found, and there was arguments there, to basically the public sphere or political sphere, and how was that communication? Was that something novel? Was it novel in parliament that the data or research data has been kind of promoted as an argument for some kind of legislative
Yeah, I think that was a
initiatives?
good example, as you remember, because you were invited, of scientific community and politics collaborating. And actually, I think that was the reason why public pressure was created, and then certain regulation did change in the end, at least for the primary schools. If you would ask me, of course, as somebody would ask you probably, I think it should always be like that. So unfortunately, we are not that lucky that in every topic we have experts. But I think our institute, the one that you are working in, made huge research which enrolled teachers, as well as students, and showed their standpoints about usage of cell phones in schools. And that was extremely relevant as an argument which wider audience understood for us to be able to sell our proposition, actually. So I think that was very successful, especially because of the research. So scientific research can be really, if it's contemporary, if it's focused on vivid topics, such as this one, can be really influential. And I think that's important.
That's really interesting, and it's completely correct what Maria is saying. However, us as researchers have never proposed a ban.
Well,
That's an interesting...
because you like to be loved.
There you go.
I know politics is about love and hate.
Okay, that's also an interesting interplay between the scientific research and the policy and this translation. Although it was almost, I would say, like a great example of how the research communicates to politics, and then how politics takes on the research without skewing the research. So it was never skewed from the perspective of the data and what are the main kind of findings. However, the final proposition was different than the intended by the researchers, which is fine, because the researchers are not politicians. From the Swedish perspective, not from the perspective of the foundation, but from the Swedish perspective, would you say that politics, for example, in the sphere of digital and education, or education in general, does the Swedish politics take into account enough of the research output from the Swedish researchers?
I would say what I'm thinking. I think they do. I think they have the idea, and I think they have the same idea as the political here. They're saying, you said that the smartphone wasn't good for children, let's ban it. And that was almost your suggestion from your research paper. But in your research, you probably saw more different aspects. It's more complex. It's an easy solution on a complex issue. And the big question, and I think that's the big issue for the politics as well, what do we do to manage when the children are 16? How do they learn how to use these devices? Who are responsible to give them knowledge around internet and social media, algorithmic attention spans, the surveillance capitalism? Who gives them that, and in what extent, especially when we say that screens are something that children shouldn't be part of? Are we expecting the families to do this, mothers and fathers? Maybe everybody is like me, starting the morning and asking, what did you do yesterday? And my child says, oh, I Googled myself. And then we can talk about why he didn't find anything about himself on Google. And I can tell him, oh, this is the way Google works. But I don't think everybody is like that. But I hope. So it's an easy solution on a complex issue, and I think we have to, and that's my my backlash to the ban, That is, we have to actually take it in a broader extent. We have to talk about the next step. What we do then.
Luca, you want to react?
Just a bit of an observation that just came, it popped into my mind in terms of, asking questions if the politicians are listening to the researchers and so. I think one of the things that made this topic so interesting, obviously because it's, about children, but also because there's people, certain like individuals who carry this kind of like pop star culture vibe around them. Like, let's say, what's this guy's name? He like pops up on all the social media. Jonathan Heinz, something like that. And he always talks about this. And he's massive. Like, he's got millions of views. And he boils down these topics into something that's digestible for moms and dads who are scrolling and who don't have the time to do the research. And then they can make the pressure on the politicians, and the politicians themselves are humans of flesh who also use social media. And same with Boris. I mean, he has a radio show. He's a popular guy in Croatia. People know him, and I think that helps. And
I was not for the ban. I was not for the ban.
But we're talking about
I was not for the ban.
Getting the research into the right hands and making some policy out of it. And I think that aspect, and it's ironic because it is precisely kind of the world we live in, the algorithms, the social media that have made it this way, that everything has to be sexy and clipped into 15 seconds, and but you have to make things understandable to like a regular average Joe, and if you manage to do that, you will be able to push for your cause. And I think that's why working with somebody, finding people within your community who are great communicators and who can create these moments, I think is one of the most crucial aspects on how to get this topic out.
That's an issue of communication, but before we start with the issue of interest groups and how it is really actually a kind of, it's not an easy position to say ban something and to go against some interest group. Before we go into that, now it's your time. Do you have any questions on the discussion that we have so far? We have heard quite a lot. We have heard very interesting and unique positions of those who are in power, or those who are proposing the laws and legislation, and those who are trying to critically observe what's going on around. So please, raise your hand if you have any questions. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Well, we were talking about addiction, especially for social media. We mentioned games as well. How would you define it's addictive, or the children is addicted to like digital things, like platform or content? And in terms of that, like I know it probably be kind of ideal to talk about it, but do you think it's some kind of forms of digital content, or what kind of types of content, or maybe games, or maybe social media, like flatter thing, would be more addictive? And how do we like know the different level of it? And we can start to ban different things from that, if that would be like the easiest way. But yeah, I know it's kind of ideal to really use number or to calculate that. But that's my question.
Thank you. You want to go with that? Yeah, just go ahead.
This reminded me, let me come back to the one thing she said at the very beginning when she was ironic, and she said, oh yes, we should ban it for girls, because of Instagram and stuff like that. Of course, that was irony. But we have, for example, research in, recent researches in mental health of children in Croatia, which show until the age of 10, you have more boys who have mental issues than girls. And the numbers are 2/3 to 1/3. But when it comes to teenage, the numbers change. So it's a shift. We have way more female mental health problems. These are official Croatian numbers. Than male. And when it comes to, again, from 20 to 40 group, we again have more male. So when I was researching that in the Croatian parliament, it was said because we had some concerning numbers in rise of suicides when it comes to girls. They said that the appearance of Instagram especially, and then other similar social media, made a huge impact on girls, which really drastically influenced their mental health. So, of course, I go with the irony that we shouldn't prohibit just the girls, I mean. But there are significant differences when it comes to sex and relation of social media and how it influences us. So when it comes to addictive behavior, so there are many papers already written about it, how your dopamine rises, how you start, you know, because of algorithms, how you start feel, and what about all the chemicals your brain produces, and how it also changes when you are unable to, again, take social media or your cell phone in your hands. So that's already defined by, you know, by scientific research. But generally speaking, I mean, we all see it. If you have a teenager at home, there's a very strong chance if you wander around at night, maybe go to the bathroom, you will find your teenager still stuck on his cell phone, probably on social media. So that is something which is addictive behavior.
I think both of them want to react. So Maria, just give it whoever you want to give it to. And I see that there is already questions there. So, but we have a lot of topics. So like, let's.
But I have to say that we have to make a difference between the content and the addiction, because it is a matter of content. And you want to ban a sort of content. And you talk about an addiction, and then you talk about all the addictions around social media. And it's some sort of, I would say, a mix-up of two different arguments, and we have to separate them. And maybe we need to look on a different way of banning. Instead of banning the child, maybe we should ban the content creator, or maybe the one who actually have the platform to deliver it to the child. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a part of the political agenda as well. Just a suggestion.
Well, I wouldn't say that there's a disagreement there. I wouldn't say that there's a disagreement. That we're going to come to those who make the content and those who regulate the content and those who dispatch the content, which is also very interesting. You want to react, Luca?
I just wanted to briefly add on, you mentioned games, right? So, and how do we discern things? So in today's, and that's like one of the things I'm super interested in, and I talk about it a lot. In today's gaming world, you have kids who are gambling within the games, right? And that kind of stuff should not be allowed. I mean, they are digitally gambling. Instead of going into casinos, they have games, they have skins, they have these little boxes they're opening. When I saw my brother like a couple of years ago, even more, playing this, I was like, whoa, what is this, you know? And I went to my mom and it's like, he's fucking gambling, you know? But it's in-game, it's an in-game experience, but he's fucking gambling. So I was appalled, you know? And then I dug deeper, and those are there's mechanisms that are keeping us, you know, addicted. And I would say, you know, yeah, content and the provider, or however you called it. But I think it's the way it's set up. Like, I'll give you an example. Facebook didn't used to be that addictive. It used to be like a community type thing where you would see, you know, what your friends are doing. And then came the introduction of the endless scroll, right? Or with TikTok, actually, and the algorithm and the endless scroll. That aspect completely changed the game, where you never reach the end. You just keep going forever. So let's say, so just a tiny example, maybe, you know, that's one of the things where we say, okay, this is where we draw the line, you know. I don't know, just an idea, but yeah.
Okay, so now we're with Luca's brother, and as a kind of father figure, a little bit older. Watch your language, Luca. Watch your language. This is an academic conference. Watch your language. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Ingrid, you had a question. There you go.
Yeah, I think these two things are related. That because it's from a legal perspective, law is always about simplifying things. My hardest lesson entering politics, since before politics I was always aiming to make things more complicated as a philosopher, and I got used to that. everybody got mad at me in politics, like, make a standpoint, you know, you can't always make things more complex, because in politics, especially when you are creating laws, it has to be simple and it has to be straightforward. And because of that, it's very far from perfect. And that's, of course, for us as scientists, very bad. But when it comes to the creation of the content, I think those who are producing content are those who should be held responsible. So when I was suggesting, unlike Možemo suggested, I had a little twist. I said, it's not about, you know, a state which has to create this perfect system, so though that it has to verify your age and stuff in order to enter social media. It's about the content creator. These are the rules of my country. If I say under 14, 15, 16, this shouldn't be allowed to minors, if they enter it, you are the one who will be held responsible because you sold something to children which you shouldn't. So be creative, be inventive, find a solution. If we had laws like that, they would be forced to create a solution which wouldn't actually invade somebody's privacy. That's simple, because they would lose. And I think that's the way to force them to cooperate. It's not all about the state who has to find these perfect solutions and perfect ways to take care of children. We should also force them. I agree on that.
As I said, there's a lot of commonalities in the positions. Ingrid, you had a question.
Yes, I have. I don't think the question a short question then, but no, I was just wanted to go back to your question about how research is used and how you define research a little bit, because you are now referring to this studies about dopamine levels, and we have these mental health studies, and they're very important. But I mean, also the things that Kristina addressed with, you know, being part of society. I mean, we have a lot of social science research here and humanities research, and you're a philosopher. Is that also part of the research that you've been looking into?
Trying to make things simpler, more simple than they probably should be. I just think, like, to put everything, you know, on the table, that right now, the situation for children is pretty bad. I think it's bad. I see, I mean, yesterday I had two very everyday examples in one day. First, I ran into a friend of mine. She has a daughter, age 7. I sat on a coffee with her. And of course, what is a child doing all the time? You know, and she was like, because she knows my standpoint, she was like pretending, you know. She was like a bit scared of me, so she was, I could put it away, you know. But, you know, the child didn't take her seriously, and she wasn't serious. She was just because of me, you know. So I was embarrassed because she was embarrassed in front of me. And the other one is a child of 2. My friend came later on. She has 3 children. Wonderful mother. I'm not speaking about those parents who don't take care. I'm speaking about well-educated, dedicated parents. But she has 3, you know. And the youngest one is 2. So we were trying, like, to have adult conversation. Of course, what was the one age 2 doing? Scrolling the cell phone. So I think right now, even for not just primary school, for kindergarten, that the situation is so bad that we should, you know, take the risk and try maybe to ban, to do something, and then it will give us some space to create, you know, maybe even more sophisticated solutions. Yeah.
It's about, like, as far as I understand, it's about, like, nuances of one side academia and, like, concepts that we speak about here, and then on the other hand, what you are saying is basically in a political sphere, you need to be clear, you need to be very kind of strict almost, and you have to be simple with regards to what you and how you regulate. We're going to come back to the issues, very important issues of the who should be held responsible. I'm going to give you a possibility to ask a question now.
Thank you, Boris. And I think Jeremy Knox, University of Oxford, UK. I think my question follows very well from Ingrid's, but I'll ask it slightly differently, which is I appreciate the focus on the ban as the way that we start to address these issues. But you have to forgive me for feeling a lack of understanding about your political vision for the future of Croatia and the young people of this country, right? We've heard about analogies with smoking bans and alcohol bans and how they're imperfect. So that doesn't sound like much of a ambitious political vision for what to do about tech. So I'm slightly confused that I'm not hearing that from you in this forum. You have a chance to tell us how can you accommodate innovation and protection. What is your vision for this domain that is beyond whether we ban something or not?
This is now really interesting, and I'm sorry sorry, Luca and Maria, you're now put on the spot, and you are playing a little bit of a devil's advocate here. I think you're enjoying your time here in between. It's really interesting, and it kind of probably mirrors the situation in England and mirrors the situation in any country. And it's interesting here that we have parties from a different political spectrum, which is also for me very interesting. So basically, issue of vision, an issue of what comes after, and what comes after that. Does Možemo have that?
So I can tell you from my standpoint of view, right? We've done what we can locally where we have power. We try to push it in the parliament. It's about even, you know, it's about gathering allies. It's about gathering people to understand the issue. And I feel like in order to prevent this, it requires a global alliance. You know, Australia has done something amazing because they're big enough of a market to pull something off like that. You know, Google and Facebook and Meta aren't going to go and be like, okay, you know, Australia, screw you. But they're going to do that to Croatia, right? So the way we have to work is, I think, bottom up. And it's about, so I understand that, you know, people feel that not enough is being done, but I see this as, you know, getting your foot in through the door and then expanding it as it goes, as, you know, gather allies. And it has to be a global thing, right? Because the capital flows, these companies are everywhere, you know, internet is in the cloud. It can be restricted somewhat, you know, geographically, but in that sense, I think it requires like a global alliance, and those are hard to build, and those really take time. So, but it's moving, it's happening. I feel like there's an awareness, especially in the developed world, about this, and people are becoming more and more aware. And end goal really is, like I said, to balance out these powers. And I think the responsibility has to be put on those who have created the situation to begin with. Because I'll be real quick. Because we, you know, the research and the leaked papers have shown that the IT companies doing this, the situation is very similar to the oil companies in the 70s. They knew what they were doing, and they were hiding it. Same way here. They knew what they were doing with endless scrolling. They have the research that's shown that this will, you know, ruin kids' brains, that they will hinder the development and stuff like that. And they did it anyways for the profit, and therefore they should be punished. That's my opinion. So
it's really interesting. I'll rephrase for the third time the issue. There is a clear to me, kind of the goodwill perspective and like informed perspective, a wish from the politics to do something, and that's clear. So that the idea, and which is also common sense, that you kind of, if something is bad in your view, that you want to ban that. But the question is, what is the idea forward with that? Do we want to have education which is basically pre-technological or pre-digital? Can we come to the pre-digital stage of not just education, but also growing up? Is that the goal? Or do political parties basically, or political forces, and Croatia is no better, no worse, I would say better than most Western countries, with this idea of ideation or imagination of what can happen. What kind of growing up and what kind of education would come after that? Because that's what this conference is about. And the idea of post-digital, because these are all people who are critical in a positive way. So they try to see the good and the bad sides of it. So from a political point of view, like what would be the vision of this growing up? Would this be like the no digital technology in the growing up to the age of 15? Would it be a hybrid level? When do you introduce something? What do you do with learning? What do you do with, you know, like getting loved, getting in love, meeting partners? So there's like a lot of issues that are connected with the digital sphere of young people.
Yeah, I do miss time when we didn't have cell phones, I must say. And of course, it will not happen again, I guess. So first of all, I think that we live in the age of responsibility, and knowledge is not seen as power anymore, and just power, as Francis Bacon did put it. So right now we see knowledge primarily as responsibility. And that shift happened, we could say, when atomic bomb appeared. I mean, there are many ways to put it, but let's say this was like distinction. So we did, it's not like, it's not black and white, and it doesn't mean to take a step back and to come, I don't know, in Middle Ages or something like that. But it means to teach our children that right now we have technology, and technological progress is so fast, unlike moral progress, which maybe never happens. And unless we take a step back, in a sense, starting to think about the consequences and about our responsibilities towards that technology, we won't be able to use it in a good direction. And it's not just when it comes to cell phones. This is happening in any other level. For example, right now, again, discussion about genome is being raised because current researchers, it started all with trying to get rid of diseases that are part of your genome heritage. But right now, it's again being raised whether we are going to be able to change our genome in a sense to influence it. And it's happening in, for example, choosing sex is very common thing of your child. It's very common thing in Western world, in Hollywood, for example. Or, I mean, did somebody think when it comes to, for example, popular couples as Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt once were, or Jay-Z and Beyonce, and I had a couple of them. I was like making notes that when they got twins and one male and one female, it was just pure luck. I mean, so many things are already, we are using technology without responsibility. So I think that our age, because of this fast accelerating technological progress, for our children will be about responsible usage, not just knowledge and technology as power. And I think that's the lesson that we should transfer to them. And they need certain tools in order to address these issues, and if they are just using social media and everything else, they won't be able to develop them.
I think that comes to the smart and nuanced policies within all spheres of life, but that's still to come. My plan has already broken up completely because I see many hands, so I'm going to quit on all my questions, and I'm just going to use now the floor. We have 10 minutes, and we have already, I see that it's interesting discussion, so please be short, and then you also be short with a question. Maybe you can also direct the question to who you're directing to.
Right. Thank you very much, Teresa Sorato-Pagman, Stockholm University. I was thinking about what Christina said, this dialogue with your children, telling your children about, how, for example, Google indexes information. I was thinking about what you said about sophisticated solutions. So I wonder if you also see the school as taking an active role in teaching children about the risks and and also, I suppose, the possibilities, but just thinking about, what you can do with technology just to stimulate, them to think about technology instead of only banning the technology.
Christina?
From my perspective, I'm the luckiest girl in the room because I actually work on a foundation that fosters and try to foster knowledge about the technology, trying to understand the digital arena. How do we get teachers, students, children to actually understand what it means to be a part of a society where AI is everywhere? What is AI and what is a computer? So we actually try to, I'm not a policy maker, but we do policy advocacy against schools to actually foster and giving away education materials for teachers to work with children around it, because we think it's so important that every child that is born in a community where digital or the internet is a seamless part of our world needs this knowledge. I'm afraid of a society where we don't have that knowledge, where we don't are curious about the technology that surrounds us, where we don't invite the young people to question and ask around it and investigate it together with us.
Just go ahead.
Just a clarification. Maybe it wasn't clear enough because I did maybe on purpose make a very strong standpoint about banning. So my suggestion, and even Možemo, was regulation, and that's how I called it. Because, of course, when it comes to learning through technology in certain areas of your education, of course, technology will be welcome. For example, in Croatia, we have informatics. And of course, you will use all the smart technologies there to be able to, I don't know, understand some things. But we have a problem with other topics and in the school, and that's when they are using technology where it's not necessary as a distraction. And that's why it's called regulation. It's welcome when it's used for the purpose of education, but it's not welcome when it's used as a distraction from the education in other levels, in mathematics or in some other, I don't know, literature or somewhere else.
Too many hands. Whoever has the mic can speak.
Hello, I have the microphone. Hello, should I stand up?
Yeah.
Please stand up.
Yeah.
Okay. To ban or not to ban, it's like a parallel topic to the education, to the technology in education. So it's like a parallel situation going on. So I am in favor of the ban, but I'm not totally against the technology in primary school. Mm-hmm. So I'm a linguist. I'm researching in this topic and in these topics, but I'm also the initiator, one of the initiators of our Croatian smartphone-free childhood initiative, Umodi Odgodi. Some of you know me, like Maria. So I came here also as kind of a promoter of that global parents initiative. So Luca mentioned Jonathan Haidt. He's like the most famous face on the internet. When he's talking about the ban, and when all of us are talking about the ban, before or at the same time, we should talk about delaying. So what age are we talking about? What content to what age? You know? When we talk about AI, what age are we talking about? About primary school? Because Carnet and our Ministry of Education, they are doing this pilot project in primary school from the 11 or 12 years old. They are learning, they are teaching them how to use critically AI. So we should talk, I think we should address directly to topics that are going on, like these topics. So delaying, age appropriateness, if this is the English word, and what content, you know, we are talking about. Because when we are talking about cigarettes and alcohol, or pornography, for example, it's not the same if our children watch it at 15 or at 7. Because pornography, violent videos, murders from Palestine and Syria, and so on and so forth, you know? So we are talking about the age and the appropriateness. Okay.
Yeah, these are really valid points also. Like, of course, the issue of age is different in different cultures. That's also something we need to understand. Here we have very much a Western side of perspective. Like all our perspectives are Western. In this room, mostly Western. In other parts of the world, they would have totally different cultural norms with the idea of the age appropriateness. Who has the microphone? Thank you for your comment.
Very interesting discussion. Yes, I want to ask you if you, in your private life, if you consider the perspective of the students, not mediated through research, but if you asked really with open mind to children, what do you like about digital technology, what you don't like? And yeah, really with open mind, listen to their answer. I try to do these kind of things when I do media education in schools, and the answers are really differentiated. They can really say, this is really problematic. They also don't like sometimes that they are not so in control of the time or so on. But there are also so sites where they are really, they can be so creative and be connected also with the family and with the friends and share so many. So maybe this could also help to understand what's to ban, what not. And yes, just wanted to ask that.
I mean, I would assume most kids will say the same thing as grown-ups, you know? And I remember reading in one of the research is that they didn't like the fact that they were tired the next day because they were scrolling and they didn't go to bed early. And the way, and they would say things like, you know, social media makes me feel anxious and stuff like that. But at the same, and I would say the same stuff. But at the same time, like you said, the connections, the ability for me to be creative, to use some of these things to create something that's fun. Like I see a lot of kids who are incredibly creative with video editing, ideas. The digital content they produce is like, wow, you know? And it's also a way for them to express themselves. But I think, like we talked, there has to be an appropriate maybe age to do this, and before they are introduced to like basically a world that it is now, it's, you know, it's like being thrown into the ocean with the sharks. You know, somebody's gonna get eaten, somebody's gonna be fine. But I feel like, you know, before we throw them in the ocean with the sharks, we should teach them at least what the sharks are and how to defend themselves against the sharks. Sharks being, you know, the social media.
Well, now we have the sharks in the room too, so we have everything thus far, from Angelina Jolie to sharks and I don't know what. We have two more questions. So like, okay, so the microphone is there, and then fight for the last one. So.
It follows on a bit from your question. My name's Carmen Vallis. I'm from the University of Sydney, Australia. As an Australian, I feel like I have to input here a little bit. And so it's around children's digital rights and how we might move towards sort of informed choice rather than banning, because there's some interesting research coming out of Australia around the social media ban from the ARC Centre of Excellence for the Digital Child, where they look at digital practices. And basically it's very uneven what's coming out. There are some students who are hugely disadvantaged by not having social media, particularly students with disability, remote students who really rely on it as a mode of communication, so a blanket ban really doesn't work for them. And then the other interesting things that's coming out is around parents' use of social media and schools' use of social media, and how that sometimes, you know, impinges on the rights of students' digital privacy. In Australia anyway, schools will often post photos from fetes and community events of children without asking their children's consent, and that happens as well quite a lot on Instagram, posting photos of children. So that's sort of following on from your question, how do we get more student voice into this discussion?
That's something that I've been really advocating for a long time, to involve young people in the decision making, and I'm sure that this voice, just like parental voice, would be really important in these issues. However, in most cases, you know, like I see these political moves, I see it as a first step. And something that, you know, like there is an obligation to do something. And it's a popular step, not to be kind of deceiving. So it's a popular step about it. But, you know, like without nuanced inclusion of those who are actors, that's really important. For me, and I'm sorry for privatizing, for me it's also very interesting how the focus is only on young people. You know, like if we speak about the ban of something by young people, these young people, most of them have parents. There is lack of political will to go into that sphere a little bit, to go into that, because that's much more complex thing to regulate with regards to the, you know, like it's much easier to have the object as a young person and a minor than to go into the social context that he or she is actually living in.
I'm primarily speaking about children because my focus is on children's rights in many areas. That's first. The second, I think it's our biggest responsibility as regulators is towards children. And the third is because adults which we say legal boundary in Croatia is 18 years, are taking full responsibility of their own life. So what they do, it's their choice and their responsibility. I think we came in this strange point of time in which we didn't take necessary measures of caution when we should have. And right now, of course, we are stuck, and there is no easy solution. You cannot take a step back. You cannot change time. You have a generation which was built on social media. You cannot just, take their life out of their hands. But you also have responsibility towards young ones who are, should they follow the same way because you cannot change the things now? Or should you make this, straight line, change things, and then, somebody will suffer at that point? It's very hard because it happened, at the beginning, nobody even thought when we were giving cell phones to children that something bad can happen. Perfect. They enjoy it. We have free time. They are in peace. It seemed pretty good, better than just the cartoon, on television. We just started to discover that there are bad consequences. And I don't think there is an easy solution. But I think it's good to be provocative and try to find solutions, and that we should all encourage ourselves and others to think about boundaries, and even to think about maybe sometimes just say no, because I think right now we have a problem with that. And when you ask me, well, how do I see our future and future of our children? We used to be seen as, our big title was Croatia, Mediterranean as it once was. Right now, Croatia is not that. Croatia, every third child in Croatia has a problem with weight. And we used to be, this extremely healthy Mediterranean as it once was. We don't walk, we don't exercise. We have so many problems because we are just, taking this content without any critical thinking about it. So I would like, not to come one step back, but to come one step forward, which is also one step back in things which we used to have before and didn't value them at that time. Our health right now is not as it should be. Our physical health, which is related to our mental health.
Nice. So we have the physical health also, and Mediterranean cuisine. Last question. Whoever has a question, do we have who has a microphone? No one. Oh. That's great. That's great. Last 1, 2, 3. No one. That's no. Okay, one more. Okay.
Why not to introduce a school subject about philosophy and technology, where the children can learn critically about how technology works, what is an algorithm, and what are the risks, and also, I don't know, if any opportunities. So that will be my suggestion.
When I discovered, firstly, that in this Silicon Valley and everywhere else, now they are using philosophers, I thought like, so you see, we are useful, finally? And I was very proud of us. And then, when I saw what kind of content is being created, I started to think, are philosophers actually, and these social scientist people, these very, I won't say mean, but vicious minds who are trying to understand the society in order to create a content which is very addictive. Also psychologists and stuff like that. So we can be used in a good direction, but maybe they're even misusing now social sciences in order to create more addictive, because not the technological guys, they aren't creating more addictive. Boris knows what is more addictive, and he's telling them,
Just to add to the last moment, I think that the underlying issue is the critical thinking, and then what young people should be kind of like really taught and instructed in how to critically think and how to critically live in this life that we are living. We are over the time, and I would really like you to give a great, wait. I'm going to give them, to give a great applause first for Kristina Alexandersson for irony and a very nice touch to this discussion. She's the luckiest girl in the room. Is that like the luckiest girl in the room? Okay, very Please, great applause for Marija Selak-Raspudić, who is a very straightforward member of the parliament who can speak about different topics and who is not afraid to kind of raise the issue and then defend the issue. Please, great applause for Marija. Equally, Luka, who has both sides of a digital entrepreneur, being in communications and digital communication, but now also being a part of the majority of the city and trying to push the kind of regulation within the city of Zagreb. Please, big applause for Luka Kerecin.
And big thanks to Boris. I think he did a great job. I think we all enjoyed it, right? So,
thank you. Thanks a lot. And as far as I know, now is the closing ceremony. There is going to be a lottery. Yes. Woohoo! So,
gambling.
Gambling.
Hvala puno ljudi, ja moram dalje za sekundu.